How can you make a living from your music as an indie artist? Well, that's what we'll examine in this video. Hi, I'm Regan Ram with OrpheusAudioAcademy.com, helping you make better music and grow your fan base online. Now, full disclosure, I am not making a full-time income from my music right now. That is the journey I'm on, and I'm creating this video kind of for myself. I'm kind of looking at who are the people out there that are doing it, who are the indie artists that are actually making a full-time income, and what is it that they are doing? What can I learn? What are the common denominators? And that's what I'm examining in this video. And now a couple of the examples I'll get to a little later, but first, is it really possible? How realistic is it for a common everyday musician, music artist, producer, singer, songwriter, whatever, to make a living from their music? Well, it's actually pretty obtainable. So the whole starving artist thing is a myth. It's never been easier than now to make a full-time income, to make a living from your art, whether you're a musician or even in another creative field, because there's just so many ways to find people, to find your ideal fans, and there's so many different ways to monetize. And so that's what we're going to kind of be covering in this video as well. And so one thing to keep in mind is that there's kind of the traditional route and there's the indie route. So with the traditional route, in order to really be successful, you have to really blow up. You have to be famous. In other words, you got to get a big record deal, and you got to have thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of fans in order to really make that work, because you get paid such a small fraction of the profits. You really have to kind of blow up and get famous, but that's not really the indie route. So the indie route is you can be successful, you can make a living from your music even if you're not exactly famous and no one's really heard of you. So there's actually a lot of indie artists out there that are making a living that you've probably never heard of, because they're just focused on their small little niche or genre of fans. And so one thing to keep in mind is the 1,000 true fans principle. That's really all you need to make a living from your music. And so if you have a true fan, who is a true fan? A true fan is someone that loves you so much, they love your music so much that they buy pretty much everything you release, and they'll buy several merch items or anything new that you kind of release. And they're likely to join your Patreon if you have one. So this is a true fan. There's someone that is willing to spend at least $100 a year with you, but this can be much higher. This could even be, potentially thousands of dollars a year. And you might be wondering, well, how is someone going to buy $1,000 worth of music from me? Well, that's something we get into later, and that expanding the way you monetize your following. But first, you got to get those 1,000 true fans that are paying you $100 a year on average, and that works out to $100,000 a year from your music, which I think is pretty good. Even if you don't hit that, what if you're only making, $50,000, $60,000 a year for music? That's still a full-time income. So you really don't even need 1,000 true fans to make a full-time income from your music. You could get away with 500 or 600. So then how do you get these true fans? Well, in this video, I'm going to look at two artists who have done this, two indie artists that you may or may not have heard of. So first one is Peter Hollins, and he does exclusively a cappella music as far as I know, and they're pretty much all covers. I'm not sure if he does original or not. And then the other artist, her name is Leah McHenry. She just goes by the name Leah for her music brand. And I believe for all of her music is original music. So you kind of got these two different artists on the spectrum, but both are indie artists. Both are small. You may or may not have heard of them. And they're both making a full-time income from their music, and not just a full-time income, but a very good income. I know Leah has talked about doing multiple six-figure launches from her music. She does really well there, and she makes sales throughout the course of the year. So she's doing really well with her music. And then Peter Hollins, he mostly monetizes through Patreon, actually. And Patreon, it looks like, no longer shows you how many patrons someone has, or at least he doesn't have it on his page that I can see. But I found this tool called Graphtreon, which I'm not sure if that's even accurate, but this is saying he has 3,425 patrons. That sounds about right. I think I remember when I looked at him a year ago, he had at least 1,000, maybe 2,000 patrons. I can't remember exactly, but he had a lot of patrons. And so it makes sense that if he'd be growing, he would have around that many patrons. And then if we look at his page, his lowest tier level is $4 a month. So let's say he only has 3,000 patrons, and let's say none of them have signed up for any of his other tiers. So he's got other tier levels here. He's got $10, $20, $30, $100, $250, and $1,500 a month. So let's say he doesn't have any of those. He just has them all in the $4 a month tier. And let's say he has 3,000 patrons. He's making $12,000 every month. So that is pretty good. And that's not even counting other ways he's making money, like people just buying his music straight up. Money he's making from YouTube because he has lots of videos and views on YouTube. So he's probably getting paid from YouTube advertising. And I don't know if he has merch or other ways he's monetizing. But anyway, he's making a very good income from his music, and he's an indie artist. So what do Peter and Leah have in common? What are they doing to make a full-time income as music artists, indie music artists? Well, it turns out they're not really doing anything special. They're actually following the three core principles to growing any kind of business. And this is something I'm familiar with my background, as I'm a full-time digital marketer. That's my day job that I do when I'm not working on music or Orpheus Audio Academy. Looking at what they're doing the same thing that I would teach anyone who wants to grow an online business. And it's just really these three pillars that they are following to grow their music income. And so these three pillars are: number 1, discover; number 2, engage; and number 3, promote. Obviously, those are really vague, so I'll break these down with the rest of this video. All right, so number 1 is discover. So first, you have to figure out where your ideal fans are hanging out online. And this means niching down or figuring out what your micro genre is. This is the same thing if you're going to start a business. You want to figure out what your niche is. In other words, you don't want to try to appeal to everyone or to this giant audience, because it's going to be really hard to stand out. You're going to be a small fish in a big pond. You're competing with people that have more resources and maybe even, more talent and more skills that they've developed over time. So instead, you want to kind of focus in on who, is a market of fans that maybe aren't being served as well. There isn't as much music, or they're not doing things the way that you are doing them. And how can you find them and appeal to them first? So this is something that Leah has done. Her micro genre is like Celtic fantasy metal. So that's really niche, right? She could have just gone metal, but that's such a big genre, it's hard to stand out. So she narrowed down into like fantasy symphonic metal. That's more specific. Then she made it even more niche by throwing in the Celtic element. So it's a very small subset of fans, yet there's still enough of them that you can make a really good multiple 6-figure income from your music. So that's what she's done. And then Peter Hollins has done the same thing. He's a cappella. That's very specific. And he's doing covers, right? So it's very, very niche. And that's how he's been able to stand out. So how do you discover these fans, and how do you get your music to stand out to these niche fans in these smaller music markets? Well, obviously, number 1, you just have to have good quality music. That kind of goes without saying, but I'll say anyway, you got to first have that good quality music that people are actually going to listen to and enjoy in that micro genre. So that's why a big portion of Orpheus Audio Academy is devoted to teaching you how to make better music. And that's going to help you grow your fan base. So you got to have that good music, but then good music isn't actually enough. You have to be, focused on that smaller niche audience. So then step 2 to getting discovered is to figure out what is your micro genre. And so you can kind of think of your micro genre as being 4 different tiers of genres. So first you have your big macro or primary genre. So this would be like metal or country or pop or electronic. And so you first want to figure out what's that big genre that you fit into. Then you want to narrow down more. What's like your secondary genre, your subgenre of music? So for me, my primary genre is electronic music, and then my subgenre would be synth pop. Then you want to dive even deeper into what is your niche genre. And so for me, that is synthwave music, or at least that's what I'm moving toward. I'm moving into the synthwave genre, as I used to be a completely different, kind of make a different style of music, but now I'm kind of changing my branding and changing my style of music just because that's the music I like right now. It's what I like making. And it's also, it fits this micro genre classification very well. And then finally you reach your micro genre, which for me would be pop wave. So it's like synthwave with also some electronic pop elements mixed in as well. And so that's what you want to really get down to, is what is your micro genre. So you want to kind of move through those different tiers. And then you want to think, what makes you different? What's your little twist? So for me, my music is sci-fi and fantasy inspired pop wave music. So that's kind of my twist. For Leah, her twist was Celtic fantasy. So what is your twist? What kind of makes you stand out in that micro genre? What makes you different? Now, if you want help figuring out your micro genre, I actually have a micro genre discovery worksheet that you can download and print out for free. It's in the description below this video. So be sure to grab that if you want help figuring out your micro genre. And this is very key to making a living from your music. So once you have that good music and you know what your micro genre is, then it's just a matter of figuring out where are the people that already like that kind of music, where are they hanging out online, what Facebook groups are they in, what other bands do they like, what movies or TV shows do they like, and so on. And that's where you kind of start doing some research. And then once you do that, then you know, okay, here are where my fans are, and you can look at who else is successful in that niche, and you can look at, what are some things that you can do to then attract them to you? And so that's where step 2 comes in, which is engaging these fans so that they actually become followers and fans of you and your music. And so what you want to do is basically build a culture around your music. And you do this by your imaging, what you post on social media as far as pictures. So for example, Leah, she would use a lot of castles and Celtic and fantasy, Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Narnia style imagery. So she kind of has built up this kind of medieval fantasy vibe around her music, and it just creates this culture which draws people in and makes them more loyal to her and her music. So that's what you want to do as well, is what kind of culture already exists in your micro genre, and how can you tap into that and expand on that around your music? Because that's what is going to help people, attract them to you. It's going to make you stand out, and it's going to make them more loyal and engaged with what you are doing with your brand and your music. But that's not enough. You don't want to just build up a social media following. In fact, what's more important is growing an email list. Now, you might be thinking, hey, isn't email dead? Isn't kind of outdated? And actually, that couldn't be farther from the truth. Email is still number one. It's the number one way to build any business, and it definitely applies to building an income with your music as well. And this is because 90% of people over the age of 15 use email. In fact, your fans are more likely to see an email than to see anything you post on social media, because social media engagement is just so far down. Your fans aren't really going to see anything you post on social media these days unless you are paying for ads, whereas just about everyone is going to at least see your email in their inbox, and much higher portion are going to open it. In fact, email on average has a 22.86% open rate and a 3.1% click-through rate. It means people are actually clicking through to email, going to wherever you want to send them. But only 0.58% of people are engaging on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So email is far superior to social media. So you want to get your fans from social media onto your email list. That way you control your audience and you can communicate with them anytime you want, and you don't have to go through these gatekeepers that are these social media platforms. Also, people just prefer to receive promotion messages through email over social media. In general, people don't like seeing sales offers and promotions on social media. They're there to be social, and that kind of just disrupts that vibe on social media, whereas people are more accepting of promotional messages through email, and they're just more likely to actually take action and buy through email than through social media. So you want to be building that email list. So to get started with this, you're going to want to have an email autoresponder tool. Now, the one I recommend is called ConvertKit, and you can grab it by clicking in the description below. And you can actually get started with using ConvertKit for free. And the reason I love ConvertKit is it is built with creatives, including musicians, in mind. What this will do is it enables you to actually build your list. That's where all the emails of people that subscribe to you will reside. And it also enables you to create, web pages and forums where people can actually opt in to get on your email list. And the best way to get people to opt in for your email list is to offer a free song. This is what Leah does. This is what Peter Hollins does as well. People can, opt in for their email lists by in exchange for a free song from them. And again, ConvertKit lets you do this. You can provide the link to where they can get that free song automatically after they opt in. So this is a great tool that allows you to automate your email growth. And Also, you have to use, if you don't use ConvertKit, you do have to use some kind of email autoresponder tool. You can't just use like SETI or Gmail to send out mass emails, as that actually violates anti-spam laws. You have to get some kind of email autoresponder tool. There's a bunch of them out there. And I've used a bunch of them myself, and I haven't found any better than ConvertKit. So definitely try it out yourself and see if you like it. Again, you can get started with a free account by clicking on the link in the description below. All right, so you figured out your music culture and you've got your email list set up. You're starting to grow it. You're giving away that free song in exchange for email addresses. But now you just got to get more people to see that offer, more people to see your offer to get on your email list. You just need to grow your following. So how do you do that? Well, there's tons of different ways. There's all different social media platforms, and there's paid advertising, all different advertising platforms too. So it's like, what's the best way to grow your fan base? Well, I can give you two pieces of advice here. Number one, do the platform that you enjoy the most, or that it best fits with your skills and your natural talents and what you enjoy. So don't try to, and then number two is don't try to do all of them at once. In fact, it's best if you probably just focus on one. So for example, Leah, in Leah's case, she just focused on Facebook. Now, when she grew her audience, this was a while ago when Facebook actually was better at showing, getting you organic traffic. So she built, starting out free on Facebook, and then she moved to paid advertising, and that's basically what she focuses on right now, is paid Facebook ads. So if you've got an advertising budget, then go with Facebook ads. I was doing Facebook ads and I was doing pretty well, but right now my Facebook ad account actually got shut down, so I can't run Facebook ads right now. I'm in the process of trying to get it back. And that's another downside with Facebook, is they can throw you in jail and lock your account for basically no reason. Then we arrive at step 3, which is then promoting to your audience. And this should go beyond just music. Number one way you're going to do this is through your email account and through your email list. Now, you don't want to be sending promotional messages all the time. In fact, most of the time you're going to be wanting to be sending emails about just your music updates and wow, personal updates about your life. For example, I could, give an update about how our kids are doing. This is Ember. So I could just give life updates, because that's kind of a part of what your fans are interested in. They're interested in just about you and your life and what's going on. And so that can be, maybe like 1/3 of the emails that you send out. And this can also overflow into social media as well. And then number 2 would just be updates on your music. How's your music progressing? What are you working on? Do you have any new releases upcoming? Are you just you in the studio writing lyrics, what have you, anything music related? And then the final third, or maybe more like 20 to 25% of what you send out would be promotional emails to say, hey, buy my merch, buy my music, whatever it is, join your fan club, whatever it is that you are promoting. Another, awesome creator on this platform, Damian Keys, he's kind of known for saying, hey, stop selling music, but this is completely contradicts what Leah McHenry does with her music. She absolutely sells music and makes a lot of money just selling music. So how do you kind of reconcile these two approaches? Well, different fans are maybe more or less likely to buy music. So for example, if you're creating more pop music, people that are more, geared towards maybe a younger audience, they're not buying music. But if you're creating more music for a specific niche, maybe that mostly has collector fans like Leah is doing, then you can absolutely sell music, especially, physical music like vinyl or even cassette tapes. That's popular in the synthwave genre, is cassette tapes are coming back because that harkens back to the 80s when, cassette tapes are in. So there's definitely a way to sell music, but that I still agree with Damian Keys that should not be your main way to monetize. There's so many other ways to monetize. In fact, I'll have another video coming out on this channel about the 7 different passive income streams you can utilize as a music artist. I'll link to it above and also in the description. So you got your music, you got some merchandise, you got your fan club. That's kind of like the big three for how you monetize. So that's how you make a living as an indie artist today in the new music industry. Is you focus in, you niche down, so that you're easier to find by your ideal fans, the people that are most likely to be interested in your music. And then you work on growing that audience, right? You got to build that relationship with them. They don't know you enough yet. They don't know if you're one of their favorite artists yet. So you got to continue to engage with them, release more music, build that relationship, get them on your email list where you can continue that conversation and build that relationship with them. And then when it's time to promote, sure, sell your album, sell your singles or whatever, but you know, many people don't buy music these days. I don't really buy music these days because you can get it for free. So why charge for something that people can get for free? That doesn't make sense unless you're adding more value, like with a physical album, right? Vinyl itself has its own unique value because it, colors the sound a certain way. And if you're releasing a CD, how can you make that physical, CD more interesting? What can you put in the pack that makes it, a special product that people want to have? And then, focus on monetizing, the other ways with your merchandise, with having a fan club where people are paying you every month to get, special access to you in your music, like with Patreon. And just a final word of encouragement. I know you can do it. It's definitely possible to grow a full-time income and make a living from music today if you follow these 3 steps. And this is the journey that I'm on myself with my own music. And I'm just getting started myself, so I'll be documenting my journey on this channel as well. So if that's appealing to you, then be sure to grab my micro genre discovery worksheet in the description below this video. And this will walk you through the process of discovering what your micro genre is so you can finally start to attract those super fans to you and your music. And if you found this video helpful, feel free to drop a like and be sure to subscribe if you want to make sure you don't miss out on any new videos I release on how to grow your fan base online. Also, question of the video, which of these 3 steps, discover, engage, promote, do you feel you need the most help with moving forward? Go ahead and let me know in the comments below, and I'll sure to create more tutorials and videos on that topic. All right, have an awesome day, and I'll see you in a future video. Bye.